Patrick was a billionaire, proud, powerful, and feared by many. But one poor school teacher changed everything. It all started with a bet, a cruel game between friends. He thought it would be just another challenge. But what he didn't know was that this time, the game would change his life forever. This is the story of Patrick, a billionaire who made a bet to marry a poor school teacher, but never expected the bet to take such a heartbreaking turn. Hello family, welcome back. Before we begin, please subscribe and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support keeps these stories alive. Mr. Patrick Toju was only 28 years old, yet he was already one of the richest men in Nigeria. He owned a big tech company, drove the most expensive cars, and lived in a huge mansion with marble floors and shining glass windows. Wherever he went, people smiled and tried to get close to him. For Patrick, the world was a game of power and control, and it was a game he always won. That Friday afternoon, Patrick sat with his two closest friends, Musa and Stanley, at a local restaurant in Lagos. It was one of those small, noisy places filled with a sweet smell of jollof rice and fried meat. They had stopped there just to experience something different from their usual luxury life. Patrick sat confidently at the back of the restaurant, talking and laughing loudly. As always, he dominated the conversation. Then suddenly, Musa smiled and looked at him. "Patrick," he said teasingly, "you've done it all. You've made millions, bought everything money can buy, and dated models and celebrities. But I bet there's one thing you can't do." Patrick dropped his spoon and smiled proudly. "I can do anything, Musa. You know that," he said, raising his eyebrow confidently. Musa leaned forward, smiling like someone about to start trouble. "All right then," he said. "Let's make a bet. I bet you can't marry a woman who has nothing to do with your world. No fame, no money, no fancy life, just a simple woman." Patrick frowned slightly. "What do you mean by that?" Musa pointed across the street. There, under a big mango tree, stood a young woman, about 25 years old. She wore a simple gown, her hair tied neatly behind her head. Around her were happy school children, waving and calling her Auntie Ada. Musa smiled. "That's Ada," he said. "She's a school teacher. I once interacted with her a long time ago. She's not like those girls who chase rich men. She's humble. She doesn't care about cars or money. She's focused, hardworking, and loves her job." Patrick chuckled. "A teacher? Come on, Musa. That's too easy." Musa shook his head firmly. "No, Patrick. Not this time. You can't use your money, your fame, or your fancy gifts. You must win her with your words, your heart, and your time. Only that." Stanley burst out laughing. "You mean Patrick, the billionaire playboy, should fall in love like a poor man?" Everyone laughed, except Musa. He was serious. "I mean it," Musa said. "If you can win her heart and marry her within 3 months, without using your money or lies, I'll give you 20 million Nigerian nairas." Patrick leaned back and smiled proudly. 20 million, he said calmly. "That's small money, Musa. But the challenge excites me. I'll do it." Stanley raised his glass, laughing. "Then I'll add a brand new Mercedes-Benz if you succeed." They all cheered loudly. Patrick raised his glass of juice and said confidently, "To Ada, the woman who doesn't know she's about to marry the richest man in Nigeria." Patrick's friends burst into laughter again. But deep inside Patrick's heart, something unusual happened. He felt a strange kind of excitement. He had dated many beautiful women, models, actresses, and rich ladies, but none of them truly touched him. Ada seemed different. There was something peaceful and real about her. Her gentle smile stayed in his mind. Later that night, as Patrick drove home in his black Range Rover, he couldn't stop thinking about the teacher he saw across the street. He smiled to himself and whispered softly, "Let's see how strong your heart really is, Ada." He paused, looking through the car window at the quiet night sky. "Because I always win." The next morning, inside Patrick's mansion, the atmosphere was different. For the first time in his life, the proud and powerful billionaire stood in front of his mirror, dressed like a poor school teacher. There was no designer suit, no gold wristwatch, and no shiny Italian shoes. That morning, Patrick wore a plain white shirt, an old brown trouser, and a pair of shoes he had not touched in years. He picked up one of his old bags from the closet, not a laptop bag, but the kind meant for books and papers. Patrick stared at his reflection and smiled faintly. "So, this is the great Patrick told you," he said softly to himself. "All this, just to win a bet." He took a deep breath. He had never dressed like that before, not since he became rich. But he had promised his friends that he would win Ada's heart without using money, cars, or fame. He picked up a file filled with children's storybooks, smiled again, and walked out of the mansion. The sun was hot when Patrick arrived at Evergreen School. The air was filled with the joyful sound of children playing, shouting, and singing. He could hear their laughter from a distance. Patrick walked quietly through the school gate, pretending to be a volunteer. He felt strange and out of place, like a lion walking into a chicken farm. No one recognized him. No one even looked at him twice. Then, Patrick saw her, Ada. She sat under a big mango tree, surrounded by some of her pupils. She wore a long red gown with a brown cardigan over it. Her hair was packed neatly into a simple ponytail. She was focused, calm, and peaceful as she marked her pupils' notebooks. Patrick watched her for a while. She had no makeup, no jewelry, and no fancy look. Yet, she looked more beautiful than most of the models he had dated. He smiled gently and walked closer. "Good morning, miss," he greeted softly. Ada looked up briefly, nodded, and said quietly, "Good morning, sir," then went back to marking her books. Patrick stood still, surprised. There was no smile, no excitement, and no single reaction from her. He cleared his throat and tried again. "I came to volunteer, to help around the school," he said politely. Without looking up, Ada replied, "Please, speak to the headmistress. She handles that." Patrick blinked. Was this woman really ignoring him? He tried once more. "Can I help you carry those books to the classroom?" he asked kindly. This time, Ada raised her head slowly and looked at him from head to toe. Then she said calmly, "No, thank you, sir." She stood up, carried the books herself, and began walking toward the school building. Patrick froze. No woman had ever turned him down like that before. Not one. As he stood there speechless, a little girl ran to Ada and hugged her legs tightly. "Auntie Ada," the child shouted with joy. Ada's face softened at once. She bent down, smiled warmly, and hugged the girl back. "Juliet, did you do your homework?" Ada asked gently. "Yes, Auntie Ada," the girl replied proudly. Patrick stood quietly, watching the scene. Ada's kindness touched him deeply. She gave so much love and attention to the children, but not even 1 second to him. When Ada walked into the classroom, the pupils followed her cheerfully, smiling and laughing. Patrick sighed deeply. "This woman is not like others," he said softly. The days went by, and Patrick kept coming to the school every morning. Dressed in his simple clothes, he worked quietly like every other staff. He cleaned the blackboards, carried chairs, and even fetched water for the pupils. Soon, the children began to like him and started calling him Uncle Pat. But Ada remained the same, calm, focused, polite, but distant. Sometimes she nodded at him. Other times, she walked past without even saying a word. One afternoon, after school had closed, Patrick walked up to Ada again. She was packing her books, getting ready to leave. "Can I walk you to the gate?" he asked softly, smiling. Ada smiled politely and said, "Please, no need for that. I'm fine." She picked up her bag and walked away quietly. Patrick stood there, watching her leave. For the first time in his life, he felt helpless. That night, he sat alone in his mansion, thinking about her. He thought about her calm face, her patience, and how she cared for the children. She wasn't falling for him. None of his usual tricks were working. He was lost in thought when his phone rang. It was Musa. "How far?" Musa said teasingly. "Has she started falling in love with the mighty Patrick?" Patrick gave a weak smile. "She hasn't even looked my way," he replied quietly. Musa burst into laughter. "Patrick, the great lover boy, rejected? This is serious." But Patrick didn't laugh. He looked out of the window silently. Then he said softly, "Musa, I'm not giving up. I'll win her heart." What Patrick didn't know was this. While he was busy playing the game was slowly playing him back. And without knowing it, the proud billionaire's heart had already begun to fall in love. It had been 4 weeks now. Patrick came to the school each morning like a normal worker. He helped the children and assisted the teachers whenever they needed him. But Ada still didn't smile at him. Whenever he tried to talk to her, she gave short answers and quietly walked away. Still, Patrick refused to give up. He had promised his friends he would win her heart, and his pride was now on the line. One hot Thursday afternoon, Patrick saw Ada struggling to carry several things, a pile of books, some files, and her water flask, as she tried to walk to the staff room. He quickly walked up to her and said softly, "Please, let me help you with the books." Without even looking at him, Ada replied, "No, thank you," and kept walking. Patrick frowned slightly. "But it's clear you're struggling," he said gently. "You're carrying books, files, and your flask all at once. I only want to help." Ada suddenly stopped and turned sharply to face him. Her eyes met his. "Why have you been following me?" she asked firmly. Patrick was surprised. "I'm not following you," he said quickly. "I just want to help." "Help me?" Ada asked, narrowing her eyes. Since when did strange men start offering help without asking for anything in return? Patrick blinked, confused. "I don't understand." "Exactly," Ada replied firmly. "Because I don't understand either. Why are you always here? You were never part of this school. Not a teacher, not a parent. Yet you're always around, sitting near my class, offering to help, and smiling for no reason. What exactly do you want from me?" Patrick stammered, "Nothing. I just..." Ada cut him off, folding her arms. "Then please stop following me," she said sharply. "I don't have time for distractions. This school is my life. These children are my focus. I don't need help, especially not from someone pretending to be what is not." Patrick stood there, speechless. A few teachers walking by looked at them curiously, sensing tension. Ada shook her head and walked away toward the staff room, leaving him standing there confused and embarrassed. That evening, Patrick didn't drive home. He sat quietly inside his car, staring at the steering wheel. For the first time in a very long time, a woman had truly wounded his ego. But deep inside, he didn't feel anger. He felt respect. Ada wasn't rude. She was real, bold, and honest. For the first time in his life, Patrick realized he no longer wanted to win Ada just to prove a point. He actually liked her. He admired her strength and her heart. He wanted to explain everything to her, to tell her the truth. But how could he? How could he tell her that everything started as a bet? Would she believe him? Would she forgive him? Would she ever accept that his feelings were now real? Patrick didn't know. But one thing was clear, Ada was different. That evening, as he sat alone in the car, Patrick made a decision. He was done pretending. He no longer cared about the bet. The next week, something changed. Patrick started dressing like himself again. Clean, fitted suits, polished shoes, and his favorite cologne. When he arrived at the school in his black Range Rover, heads turned. Some teachers whispered among themselves. "Isn't that the volunteer?" one asked. "So he's rich," another added. "That man is not ordinary," a third whispered. Patrick heard them but didn't care. He had made up his mind. It was time to tell Ada the truth. He waited until after school that day. Ada was still in her classroom, arranging books and marking notebooks. Patrick walked in quietly and stood by the door. Ada looked up and frowned. "What do you want again?" she asked coldly. Patrick stepped closer. His voice was calm and serious. "Ada, please," he said softly. "Just hear me out." She sighed impatiently. "Talk fast. I have work to do." Patrick took a deep breath. "My name is Patrick Toju," he began slowly. "I'm a software engineer. I didn't come to this school by mistake. I came because of you." Ada's eyes sharpened. Patrick continued. "I know how this will sound, but I need to be honest. I started coming here because of a bet. My friends challenged me to win your heart without using money. I agreed. It was a foolish and shameful thing to do, and I'm truly sorry." He paused, his voice shaking slightly. "But the truth is, I didn't expect to meet someone like you. You're strong, real, and pure. You made me see life differently." Ada stood up immediately, her eyes filled with shock and anger. "All this time, it was a bet," she said, her voice shaking. "You made me part of your stupid game." Patrick's heart dropped instantly. "I've met your type before," Ada said bitterly. "Smooth talkers. Rich men who think they can buy everything, even love. I fell for that once, and I learned my lesson. Never again." Patrick took a small step closer. "Ada, I'm not playing games anymore. I'm serious. My heart beats for you. I truly care about you." Ada moved back quickly, shouting, "Don't come near me." Patrick froze. Ada's voice trembled with emotion. "I don't care how rich you are, but don't think I'll ever fall for your tricks again." Patrick's voice cracked. "I'm not pretending anymore. This is me, the real me." Ada shook her head firmly. "I don't care if you're rich or famous," she said. "I'm not interested in being your next story." Patrick pleaded softly. "Please, just give me one chance. Leave me alone." Ada screamed. "And stop following me, Patrick. I'm not interested in you or your stupid games." With that, she grabbed her books and stormed out of the classroom. Patrick stood there, completely still, speechless, broken, and lost. The same Patrick told you who once had women fighting for his attention was now rejected and humiliated by a simple school teacher. He stood alone in the dusty classroom, staring at the door with tears forming in his eyes. He had lost the bet, but that wasn't what hurt the most. What truly broke him was losing the only woman he had ever genuinely cared about. And for the first time in many years, Patrick felt true heartbreak. That night, Patrick sat alone in a quiet corner of a popular club. The music was loud, the lights were bright, and people were dancing and laughing all around him. But Patrick stayed in the corner, staring blankly at a half-empty bottle of whiskey. The same club where he once laughed with his friends, boasting about how easily he could get any woman, now felt empty. He wasn't the same Patrick anymore. Ada had broken him, not with insults, but with her rejection and her silence. Suddenly, his friends, Musa and Stanley, walked into the club. They saw him at his usual corner and laughed as they came toward him. The mighty Patrick has fallen. Musa teased, grinning. "I told you that woman would break your heart." Stanley added jokingly, "Look at him. The famous player now looks like a sad puppy. The player has been played." Their laughter filled the room, but Patrick didn't smile. He slowly lifted his glass, took a sip, and said quietly, "I don't care about the bet anymore." Their laughter stopped. Patrick continued, "I truly care about Ada. I can't focus on anything. I go to bed thinking about her. I wake up with her face still in my mind." Musa scoffed. "Patrick, she already told you she's not interested. Just move on, my friend." Stanley nodded. "You're rich, young, and handsome. You can have any woman you want. Why are you hurting yourself over one local school teacher?" Patrick shook his head slowly. "I don't care about other women anymore," he said softly. "My heart wants only Ada. She's different. She's strong, kind, real, and she has captured my heart completely." Even Musa went quiet. Stanley leaned back and stared at him. "Patrick, are you serious? Because of one simple school teacher who insulted you?" Patrick stood up, his eyes red and tired. "You both don't understand," he said quietly. He picked up his car keys, looked at them for a second, then walked out of the club without saying goodbye. Musa and Stanley watched him leave in silence. After a moment, Stanley said softly, "This is serious. I can't believe this is Patrick." Musa shook his head slowly. "Our own Patrick, the same man who never believed in love. Meeting Ada has really changed him." Stanley sighed deeply. "He's not thinking straight anymore. We need to help him forget her." 3 days later, Musa and Stanley met again in the office. "Patrick is not himself anymore," Musa said, worried. "That Ada girl has taken over his mind." Stanley nodded. "We have to distract him. Let's introduce him to another woman, someone beautiful, confident, and irresistible. Maybe that will make him forget Ada." Musa agreed. That evening, he called one of his female friends, Anita. Anita was stunning, tall, curvy, with long legs and a charming smile. She was the kind of woman who turned heads everywhere she went. "Anita," Musa said over the phone, "Patrick is heartbroken. Go to his house tomorrow morning. Spend time with him. Try to cheer him up. You know what I mean." Anita smiled. "Leave it to me. I know how to handle heartbroken men." The next morning, Patrick was still in his pajamas, standing by his window, lost in thought. He hadn't eaten. He hadn't shaved. He just stood there, staring into space. A knock came at the door. He dragged his feet slowly and opened it. Standing there was Anita, wearing a short silk dress, full makeup, and a seductive smile. "Hi, handsome," she said sweetly. "Your friend sent me to keep you company." Patrick looked at her, without emotion. "Who are you?" he asked in a tired voice. "I'm Anita," she said softly, stepping closer. "Relax, baby. I'm here to make you happy." Patrick's face hardened. "Please leave my house." Anita smiled and took another step. "Oh, come on now. Don't be like that. I know you're hurting. Let me take care of you." Patrick's voice rose sharply. "I said, leave my house." Anita froze, shocked. No man had ever spoken to her like that. Patrick's eyes were firm. "Please, leave." Without another word, Anita turned around and walked out. Later that evening, she met with Musa and Stanley. "Your friend Patrick chased me out," she said angrily. "I've never seen a man reject me like that. He didn't even look twice at me. He just told me to leave." Musa and Stanley stared at each other in disbelief. Patrick rejected Anita. Stanley asked. "Yes," she said firmly. "He didn't care about my dress, my face, nothing. He's lost in his feelings." Musa sighed deeply. "This is serious. Ada has truly taken over his heart." Stanley nodded slowly. "We started a bet, but now it's more than that. The player we knew is gone. Patrick has changed." Days passed. Patrick stopped going to the school. He didn't want to disturb Ada anymore. The last time he went, she shouted at him in front of everyone, and he couldn't face that pain again. But even though he stayed away, he couldn't forget her. So instead of chasing her, Patrick started helping from a distance. Quietly and secretly, without Ada knowing, he sent builders to fix the broken roofs. He replaced old chairs with new plastic ones. He sent cartons of exercise books, whiteboard markers, and other teaching materials. Everything was done anonymously. When Ada asked the headmistress who was sending the items, she replied, "A friend of the school. He doesn't want to be known." Ada was confused. A week later, Ada arrived at school and was shocked to see the children smiling and holding new learning tablets. She went to the headmistress's office and asked politely, "Ma, where did all these come from?" The headmistress smiled. "They came from the same kind donor who loves what we do here," she said. "He didn't leave his name. He only wrote that he believes in our work." Ada walked out quietly, her mind full of thoughts. She suspected it was Patrick. But why? Why was he still helping after the way she embarrassed him? Why was he giving so much without showing his face or taking any credit? She couldn't understand it. That afternoon, Ada sat alone on her office balcony after school. The building was quiet. The children had gone home. She whispered, "What if he's truly sincere?" Then she shook her head. "No, Ada, don't be foolish. He's a player. He's pretending again." But that night, she couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned on her bed, her heart restless. Why would a man do all this and not want to be noticed? She kept asking herself. What if I was wrong about him? The next morning, Ada reached the school and stopped in shock. Engineers were on the roof installing solar panels for the classrooms. A colleague smiled and said, "This anonymous donor must be truly kind. Any woman in his life is very lucky." Ada smiled faintly and nodded, but her heart was no longer calm. For the first time, she couldn't stop thinking about Patrick. By Saturday morning, she couldn't hold it anymore. She had spent the whole week in confusion, watching her school transform. Everything pointed to one person, Patrick. And the fact that he never showed his face or bragged about it touched her deeply. That morning, Ada dressed in a simple pink gown, tied her hair in a ponytail, and took a taxi to the address Patrick had once texted her. Her heart was pounding fast. She wasn't sure what she would say, but one thing was certain. She needed answers. As Ada arrived at Patrick's office building, her heart began to beat faster. The tall glass doors shone under the bright afternoon sun, and the golden Patlink Group logo glimmered proudly at the top. She walked to the receptionist and said softly, "Please, I want to see Mr. Patrick. Tell him Ada from Evergreen School is here." The lady at the desk nodded politely and made a quick phone call. A few minutes later, the elevator doors opened with a soft sound. "Mr. Patrick will see you now," the lady said. Ada stepped into the elevator. Her hands trembled slightly as the numbers blinked, 2, 3, 4, until she reached the top floor. When the doors opened, she walked out into a large, beautiful hallway that smelled of expensive perfume and polished wood. At the end of the hall was Patrick's office, wide, bright, and elegant. Patrick stood by the window, staring outside when the door opened. He turned slowly. His face looked calm, but his eyes were tired. The moment he saw Ada, his heart skipped a beat. "Ada," he said softly, almost in disbelief. Ada stood still, holding her small purse. She looked serious, but not angry. "I came because I want to talk," she said quietly. Patrick nodded gently. "Okay, please, have a seat." The office was grand. White sofas, glass tables, a faint scent of flowers, and soft music playing quietly in the background. But Ada didn't look around. Her eyes stayed fixed on Patrick. "Why are you still helping the school?" she asked calmly. "Even after I told you I wasn't interested and embarrassed you the last time you came." Patrick sat down slowly and looked straight into her eyes. "Because it stopped being about the bet," he said quietly. "I meant every word I said. Ada, I love you, not for how you look, not for what you do, but for who you are." Ada looked down at her fingers, saying nothing. Patrick continued, his voice trembling slightly. "I know I started foolishly. My whole life, I treated love like a game. I used to play with people's hearts and walk away without caring." He paused for a moment. "But when I met you, something changed inside me. I didn't know I was capable of loving someone completely. I didn't know missing someone's smile could hurt this much." He stood up slowly and took a small step toward her. "I couldn't stop caring about you even after you rejected me. I wanted to say sorry, but you never gave me the chance. So I decided to help the school from afar, not to impress you, but to show that I truly regret what I did." Ada's throat tightened. She wanted to speak, but nothing came out. She didn't expect to hear those kinds of words from Patrick. They sounded real and honest. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't have to say anything," Patrick said gently. "Just thank you for coming here today. And thank you for changing the way I see life." Ada sat quietly. Her heart was heavy, and her mind was full. Something inside her was melting, but she was still afraid. She had been hurt before, and didn't want to make another mistake. After a long silence, she picked up her purse. "I'll think about all this," she said slowly. "I still don't know what I feel, but thank you for being honest." Patrick nodded quietly. "I'll wait," he said softly, "even if it takes forever." Ada turned and walked toward the door. But this time, she didn't walk away in anger. She walked away with confusion and a heart full of mixed feelings. That same evening, Ada couldn't go home immediately. Her heart was too heavy. She needed someone to talk to. So she stopped at her best friend Priscilla's house. Priscilla had been her friend since childhood. They grew up together, shared dreams, laughter, and pain. The moment Priscilla opened the door, she frowned. "Ada, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." Ada walked in quietly and sat on the couch. "I went to Patrick's office," she said softly. Priscilla's eyes widened. "You mean that rich man? The one you told me wanted to play games with your emotions?" Ada nodded slowly. Priscilla dropped her cup of tea and sat beside her. "Talk to me. What happened?" Ada took a deep breath. "I went there to confront him, to ask why he's still helping the school after I turned him down." She paused, then said quietly, "He told me everything. He said it started as a bet, but now, he's fallen in love with me." Priscilla blinked, surprised. "And the strangest part," Ada continued, "I believe him." Priscilla smiled a little. "Ada, Is this the same you who once said you'd never trust a man again? Ada sighed deeply. I'm scared, Priscilla. I don't know what's happening to me. I think I'm falling for him. But what if he hurts me like the last one did? Priscilla held her hand gently. Listen to me, Ada. I know what that last man did to you. You gave him everything, and he broke your heart. But not every man is the same. She smiled softly. Sometimes good people make bad mistakes. What matters is what they do afterward. And from what you've told me, Patrick is trying. Ada looked up slowly. So, you think I should give him a chance? Priscilla nodded. Yes, Ada. Give your heart a chance. Let him prove himself, not with words, but with actions. Don't let fear stop you from being happy. Ada hugged her tightly. Thank you, Priscilla. You always know what to say. Priscilla smiled. That's why I'm your best friend. They both laughed softly. But deep inside, Ada knew something had changed. Her heart was beating for Patrick. A month later, Patrick and Ada began talking again. They started seeing each other on weekends, spending quiet evenings together. Patrick was no longer the proud, playful man he used to be. He was gentle now, patient, humble, and full of care. One Saturday evening, Ada was sweeping her small compound when a black Range Rover drove in slowly. She turned and froze. It was Patrick, holding a red rose and smiling softly. Her heart began to race. Good evening, Ada, he said warmly. She dropped her broom and walked toward him, smiling shyly. Patrick handed her the rose. I just came to take you somewhere peaceful. Please, come with me. Ada looked at him for a moment, then nodded. Okay, let me get my bag. That evening, Patrick took her to a quiet garden restaurant beside the water. Soft music played in the background. Candles glowed on every table. The atmosphere was calm, peaceful, and romantic. I've never been to a place like this, Ada said softly, looking around. Patrick smiled. Then I'm happy I'm the first to bring you here. They talked and laughed. Ada opened up about her past, and Patrick listened with full attention. He told her how meeting her made him realize what true love really meant. Then, as the waiter brought dessert, Patrick stood up slowly. He walked to Ada's side, held her hand gently, and knelt down in front of everyone. The whole restaurant went silent. Ada, he said softly, looking into her teary eyes. You changed my life. You made me see what love truly means. I never believed in real love, until I met you. I may not be perfect, but I promise to love you with all that I am. Will you be mine, not just today, but every day? Ada's lips trembled. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She nodded and whispered, Yes, Patrick. I will. The crowd clapped and cheered. Music filled the air. Patrick stood up, hugged her tightly, and held her close. The next weekend, Patrick invited Musa and Stanley to his mansion. When they saw Ada walking in beside him, smiling brightly, they were both shocked. Musa stood up. You're joking. She agreed. Patrick smiled proudly and held Ada's hand. No more bets, he said softly. She's my heart now. Stanley laughed and clapped his hands. Finally, the player has fallen in love. True love humbled you, Patrick. They all laughed and cheered together. Patrick turned to Ada, smiled, and said, Thank you for teaching me that true love is not a game, it's a gift. Ada smiled back, her eyes glistening with emotion. And thank you, baby, for being patient with me. Musa and Stanley looked at them with admiration. In that moment, everyone could see it clearly. The proud billionaire had finally found peace in the arms of a humble teacher. The end. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please share your thoughts in the comment section and tell us where you're watching from. And kindly don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you'll know when we upload our next story.